In defending himself from impeachment, Democrats say Trump reached a new low today with this tweet, quote, "So someday if a Democrat becomes president and the Republicans win the House, even by a tiny margin, they can impeach the president without due process or fairness or any legal rights. All Republicans must remember that they are witnessing here, a lynching." I want to bring in Congresswoman Barbara Lee of California. She's the former chairwoman of the Congressional Black Caucus. Congresswoman, what is your reaction to the president using this language?
First of all, it's an indefensible and it's a disgusting message coming from the President of the United States, who clearly either does not understand the very painful history of African Americans in this country or doesn't really care. I mean, come on, I grew up in Texas, Jim Crow, Texas, and there were many, many lynchings in Texas, and there's still family members who are living who had family members who were lynched. There were over 4,400 African Americans, and that's only recorded, mind you, who were lynched. I wish that the museum, the Legacy Museum, the National Museum for Peace and Justice, that this president would really understand the power of that museum and understand that the names of those, the counties, the cities of those who were lynched are very clear before the public. This is a very tragic day. This president needs to apologize. Lynchings were brutal. They killed black people because they were black. He is unfit for this office. He is unfit to serve as the president of the United States.
You say he should apologize. Do you think he will?
He should apologize. But, you know, looking at his history, what does he do? Whenever he's under fire for doing something that really make him appear that he is above the law, in many respects, he moves to try to solidify his base, those who really align themselves with their hatred and bitterness towards the people of color and African Americans. So in many ways, he uses these attacks to divert from the real issues that are before him. And to say that lynching and to compare that with a legitimate process of impeachment, which is a constitutional process, lynching was a horrific act. These were terrible things that happened in our own country not so long ago. And so for him to equate this and for Senator Graham to come up and co-sign what this president has said is beyond the pale. And they both, quite frankly, should apologize, and they should do it right now.
This is happening on a day where we're seeing a key witness testify in the impeachment inquiry, Bill Taylor, the former top ambassador in Ukraine. When you understand what is coming out of this hearing, as our reporting indicates that he has testified, he was told by another diplomat, the ambassador of the European Union, Gordon Sondland, that security aid, this military aid from the U.S. that was to go to Ukraine but was being held up by the president, that it could have been held up in part because of a push for Ukraine to publicly announce an investigation into Joe Biden and his son. So that is the backdrop of what is of this language. So how significant do you think this day is on the Hill with this information coming out?
It's very significant, and I do believe that he knew what he was saying. He didn't care what he said, and he knows what's coming forward with regard to these investigations and these inquiries that could lead to impeachment. And so it was planned, it was part of his strategy, and he could care less about who he hurts and about the brutal torture that African Americans had to deal with. And then when you look at his policies today and what he is doing in terms of communities of color and African Americans, it's come on, you know, he knows exactly what's going on. And some say that, well, he just doesn't know the history. But if he doesn't know the history, he should at least understand the sensitivity and the trauma that has been perpetrated by lynchings. And it's really quite, you know, sinister of him to do this. And again, this wag the dog agenda of his is consistent with the past behavior of this man in the White House.
Congresswoman Barbara Lee, thank you so much for joining us.